Well, the state of Western Australia has had a long history of movements aimed at separating WA from the rest of the country. But the contrast between West and East has never been more pronounced during this pandemic. Given the way the state's Premier Mark McGowan has gone it alone on closing borders and the refusal to follow Commonwealth guidelines, is it any wonder there's now a new movement formed to push for the secession of WA at the next election? In keeping with more international separations, the new party is calling itself WAXIT and is led by former Clive Palmer candidate and businessman Russell Sewell. He joins us now from Perth. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
WAXIT. What was the impetus, do you think, for WAXIT?
The impetus was there's always been that underlying undercurrent where people have wanted Western Australia to secede because we don't feel we get the best end of the stick. We're often forgotten about and in many cases marginalised. And I think COVID, border closures, what was happening with our economy has really emphasised that to many West Australians, and they say, well, now is the time to go it alone. And realistically, the last time they had a shot at it was 1933. There probably hasn't been a better shot until now.
But Russell, if there's any animosity between East and West at the moment, the fight was picked by the Premier Mark McGowan, who decided throughout this pandemic to shut the borders, sometimes, as we've found out more recently, based on one infection on the other side of the country.
I think we're on the wrong argument here, Chris. Our platform, our proposal is to improve the economy and the developments in West Australia. It's not so much supporting Mark McGowan's strong border policy. So
are you suggesting that the closure of the borders has not created some impetus for this?
It certainly has. It's given people that nudge to wake up so they can see what it's like with that. It's almost like a cold test for it. But what has become more obvious is that with other states, larger states, premiers and deputy premiers, telling a local premier here or the state premier, West Australian premier, what to do, why to do, when to do, combined with the Prime Minister doing the same and the occasional businessman every now and then wanting to take a high court challenge to it, and that challenge being supported by the federal government, it's kind of made West Australians wonder, what's this all about?
OK, if you were to secede, though, you'd get no more GST money. How would WA survive without that?
So we get to keep our own GST money? Is that the suggestion?
You'd have mining and the royalties all your own.
Mining. That's true, but it's good you mentioned mining because that's largely what our platform is based on in terms of we have a single pillar economy in West Australia, largely what's driven by mining. 80% of our mining is iron ore mining and 98% of that is one customer in the iron ore market. And the fear is that one day that customer may source his product elsewhere and leave us well and truly high and dry, and then we could very well become the welfare state of Australia.
So constitutionally, what needs to happen for this to happen?
If we look at the Constitution, it says it's indissoluble. It says that for any changes to the Constitution requires a majority of all member states, so a majority of population in all member states for it to succeed rather than secede. But we're talking about a document, a constitution that was drafted 120 years ago or close enough to. And with that, you really can't have 5, 6, 7 generations of our forefathers tying the hands of future generations.
And very quickly, what's the name of the new territory? Have you found a name for it yet?
You ever heard of Western Australia?
You'd keep Western Australia. You're not part of Australia.
No, well, we are Western Australia. It's like East Timor, South Sudan, and so forth. There's plenty of new nation states that have just changed their name to suit their geographic location.
Russell Sewell, I can't see it happening, but I dip my lid to you for making it seem that way. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Great opportunity.